When I got back from all of these college visits, I realized that me coming in for 2 days to try to help counsel, reconnect athletes with some of their issues. Initially, the discussion is about vision and hitting and pitching, but then you realize when you start talking to young people, a lot of shit going on in their lives that are affecting their performance. And if you don't clean up or address what's going on before they get to the field, you're putting a Band-Aid on a wound. What can be done after my visit? Typically, I'll go into a college program for 2 or 3 days, spend time with the coaching staff. Hey, this is how you become better as the master teacher. And then it becomes, I get a chance to talk to the players, baseball and softball. And after 2 days, I get back on the plane and my heart is broken. I met these young people that, Tony, I need more help, right? I don't want to talk to the coach, because when you talk to the coach about these issues, sometimes it's a sign of weakness, which is very sad. I don't want to talk to the school because they're going to medicate me, right? The school psychiatrist has one answer: get on this shit and it'll numb you to feel better. And not to say that medication is wrong, but I'm not so convinced it's the first thing that should happen when all of us as human beings are facing that. So I decided to, and I created Sunday Lights. Sunday Lights is a 1-hour world debut in 2 weeks. And it was given to the baseball and softball teams, some of the executive life coaching that I'm doing with people, special needs children, that once a week I can connect with and talk to them about stuff, to talk to them about life, not about tools. Some of it, someone mentioned, it sounds like it might be a little bit of faith-based. Whether you believe in God, Jesus, Muhammad, it really doesn't matter, but it's really getting human beings back to the self. Because when we realize that most of our struggles, with the help of Christ and/or right ourselves, that we become the active participant in our own rescue, it becomes easier to do that. So it's a lot of reflection. And I wanted to call it Sunday Lights, because when you think of light up your life. Light is the ultimate source of energy, right? Being lighthearted. Light is an awakening. Light is enlightenment. And it really made sense for me to call it Sunday Lights. That every Sunday, maybe we can get together as a community and maybe just make a little difference to so many different people. And it starts in 2 weeks. And what's interesting, in talking to, I can't even say just student athletes, the eggs, I have a nest with eggs. They're not real eggs, obviously. And, you know, in the mental performance world, there's coping strategy, there's tools, there's eggs. There's eggs that people want to have access to use, to cook, to help them feel better. And what I realize is that until you have a nest to put the eggs in, all of these meditation, journaling, self-talk, cold showers, intermittent fasting, religion at times, breath work, or as I call it, breath play, without the nest, there's no place to hold it. So the N.E.S.T, in my world of acronyms, stands for nutrition, exercise, parentheses, hydration, sleep, and the T stands for time. And we know as we get older, time is our most precious commodity. As the saying goes, I have, Coop has, Matt has, Bodie has 1,440 minutes in a day. We all have it. Man upstairs says, you got it today, you got it today, you got it today. Choose those times wisely. Doesn't mean that you have to be locked in, but go outside and take a walk and get into the sun and be part of the light. Be productive in your projects. do things that are going to further a career or relationship, but it's 1440. And so in order for these mental performance tools to have any type of long-term help, most of the athletes that I'm talking to need to clean up and build a nest. And you might say, well, what does nutrition have anything to do with how you feel? What does nutrition have anything to do with being depressed or being anxious? All the research says that what you eat is certainly affecting so many things. It affects your visual system. It affects your cognitive skills. It affects, to what extent, whether you call it brain fog, it affects everything. So the nutritional piece, and look no further than social media. In an hour, we all know what eating in God's garden is all about. We know that vegetables are so much better than Chick-fil-A. We know that these energy drinks that guys in their 20s are addicted to, right? Compared to water with lemon, and how all of us probably in this room, probably with the exception of me over the last 6 months, have realized that, you know what, if God didn't make it, I'm not taking it. Okay, processed foods is the beginning of so many health problems, and it's the beginning to so much of the mental health issues that we see going on. So the first thing that you ask athletes or some of the executive coaches that I'm working with, these guys are making millions of dollars. They're depressed, they're anxious, they're on medication, and then you start drilling down and asking them, well, let's talk about what you're eating. Oh, Tony, that's kind of like that bullshit stuff. Really? And then you start showing them all the clinical research, if they don't believe me anecdotally, that says, if you don't clean that up, all the eggs that I'm going to give you, it's a waste of time, right? And yes, this is not a discussion on how to improve your nutrition, but everybody listening to this, everybody in this room could probably say, if I ate more things that either were raised in God's garden, walked through God's garden, or lived in the sea of the oceans that God created, I probably would have more energy, feel better. Maybe it's a question of losing weight. Maybe it's just a question of feeling better about yourself. But it really starts with, what am I eating? Why am I eating? And when am I eating? And you'd be surprised how much of the anxiety, depression, stress goes away when you've addressed probably the biggest component of it. The E in N.E.S.T is exercise. And again, Division I student athletes, they're running around enough, they've got enough cardio that's going on. But for all of the other non-athletes that I work with in trying to build a N.E.S.T, are you walking close to 10,000 steps a day? Are you doing high interval intense training to an extent that you need to be doing that? Can you do 25 to 50 push-ups every 4 hours or so? Right? Are you lifting weights? Because we know that just simply walking as we get older, our muscles start atrophying. And if we're not doing some type of strength conditioning or moving water bags or doing kettlebell work, we're going to have a problem. As we get older, our bones become more brittle. So we actually have to move more. That is a big component of the more we move, the better we feel. The sleep issue, let me just tell you about sleep at the college level. It is a big problem. These gentlemen and women in their 20s who think, you know what, that sleep shit's overrated. You can do it for a day or two. But I'm looking at 20-year-olds that look like they're 40, right? And because they don't sleep, or they have made it not a priority, they are addicted to caffeine and Starbucks. They need 4 to 7 energy drinks just to get through a day. And then you realize and ask them, well, how's your sleep? Oh, Tony, you sleep when you die. You hear that all the time. Because when you're young, Matt, right? Nah, that's sleep shit, right? There is a direct correlation between you dying at a very much earlier age and all the sleep deprivation that you've gone through when you were in your 20s and 30s. It accumulates. You're not going to catch up on your sleep in your 50s. It's going to catch up on you, the fact that you haven't done that. And I know sleeping 8 hours a day for some is impossible. No, it's not. Because if we got off the phone or stopped playing video games a little bit earlier, or the D word that I love using all the time, that every elite athlete and every elite player has, it's called discipline. You need to have emotional discipline, physical discipline, And as it relates to time, discipline enough. I'm going to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm not going to go to the after-hour party. As much as that might be fun for now, it's going to affect me for the next day or two. So I'm going to shut it down, take my warm shower, take my magnesium, make sure that I'm sleeping, get my meditation before I go to bed, say my prayers, and go to bed. And make sure the room is dark and it's cold. All the things that everybody says are the best way in order for you to sleep. You cannot skimp on sleep for an extended period of time. And I'm always telling athletes this who play for a living, it affects everything. Bad sleep, bad eating habits. Bad sleep, bad mood. Bad sleep, you talk about how the eyes are the window to the soul and affect everything. Newsflash, the eyes consist of 80% of water. That the human eyes, 80% of the composition of the eyes are water. That should tell you how important it is to hydrate. Not hydrating on Starbucks, but hydrating on God's water, on God's liquid, right? Water. Maybe water with lemon juice, maybe some Himalayan salt put into it. But the rule says that you should be drinking about half of your body weight. And so I'm looking at Cooper G to my right. Coop, what do you weigh?
190.
190. So, Bodie, do the math. 190 divided by 2 is what? What's half of 190?
85.
85. You drinking 85 ounces of water a day?
Probably not.
Maybe that's a tough goal to do, but you know what? Get better at it. Maybe it's 20 or 30, right? And that gets back to meal prepping and planning and getting a hydro flask that has 48 ounces as compared to taking a 12-ounce bottle like you see so many people do. Let me throw this down in the morning and think that you can just check off the hydration. Half of what you weigh is what the body is craving for. That'll make it less inclined for you to eat shit food. You're going to sleep better. You're going to be better lubricated. And if you happen to be an athlete that makes a living with your eyes are saying thank you because the eyes are water. There's no skimping on that. Well, Tony, I drink 2 of those a day. Well, that bottle that I'm pointing at right now has what, 12 ounces in it? Great. You hit 24. That's not even close to what somebody like you should be doing. Well, I'm not really an athlete, so I don't need to do that. Human beings are human beings, right? Yeah, the professional athletes should be more concerned about it, but their life and their health and wellness is no more special than it is to you or anybody in this room that's not making a living doing this. But the sleep, it's about being lazy, it's about being distracted, and for young people not realizing how important it is. And it took me a few decades to understand that, because when I was your age, I had the same mindset. When I get to be an old man at 40, I'll start sleeping. And then you realize, you know what? The toll that my body took depriving it in its formative years of being young children in the 20s by not sleeping, people in their 40s and 50s are paying for it now. You two guys need to be smarter than that and get a jump on it and realize that what you do now is going to affect what's going to be going on in your life internally and physically for the longest time. The T in N.E.S.T is time. How can we better and more effectively, both in pleasure and in being productive with those 14, 40 minutes we have each day? The best CEOs that I work with, the best athletes, they are so on the clock all the time. I'm shutting down eating at this point. I'm going to work out at 5 o'clock in the morning. A big deal now about the 5 o'clock club. You read all the leadership books. Man, if Bodie got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, man, he'd be the guy. Because when everybody else is lazy, sloppy, and fucking sleeping, Bodie's out there. He journaled. He worked out. He got all his work done. He planned his day properly. And when all the other lazy people in the world are waking up at 8:30, his day is half done because he planned the shit out of it. Maybe 5 o'clock's not realistic for a guy like Bodie, right? Maybe he takes that clock and he by 8 o'clock, I'm getting stuff done. But there's always times in the day that you have to tell yourself, I need to be selfish. Athletes and people need to learn how to say no. Tony, can I talk to you for a second? Nope. I've got something to do right now. I needed to, and I think some people were watching me. I went in that tunnel before and I meditated for 10 minutes by myself, because that's a commitment I made to me selfishly, that 10 minutes a day I have to close my eyes and ride my breath and do some body scan meditation, or I'm just going to go outside like my friend Bodie was doing, and I'm going open focus. I'm going to go grab some space and bring the anxiety level down just a little bit. And even though I'm not anxious anymore, I'm going to feed the brain and the eyes with the one thing that they want: sunlight, space, and the earth. All the time, to be able to do that. And that's the time piece. We all have the ability to take the time that we throw away or not productive and be selfish. I'm going to work out every day. Don't have time to do it. Yeah, you do. Find the time to do it. I don't have time to meal prep. Yeah, you do. Because without the meal prep, your nest is never going to work. That all of these coping strategies that one day you might need, right? Maybe if you just had a great nest, you wouldn't need any eggs. You will have cleaned up half of the emotional issues that you think you have by cleaning up the nutrition, being the ultimate warrior in exercise. You're sleeping 7 to 9 hours a day religiously, no matter what. And you're realizing that the 1440 that you're getting from God or whoever each day is so yours. And your ability to make it important, whether it's rebuilding a relationship, rebuilding a career, reading books that you have no idea what it's about. You want to get really smart? Pick up books that you have no right reading. I have a book that I just pulled out, and it's how to do surgery. I grabbed it from a friend of mine who's a doctor. So I'm learning how to do surgery, learning how to do brain surgery. Why would I read a book like that? It is the ultimate challenge for the brain, to be reading things that are so uncomfortable, and I'm forcing myself to look at concepts that I have no idea about. It is the ultimate challenge. Crossword puzzles. Read anything each day. Find a book that you find not even interesting, and for 5 minutes, just engross it. Just connect with it and try as best you can to challenge yourself. But you can't do that if your 1440 is wasted on so many different things that you're not even aware of. And one of it is the phone, right? We all get lost, right, hunting dopamine on social media. We all do it, right? The young guys like playing video games. We're not saying to give up the phone. We're not saying give up video games. We're not saying don't watch Sunday Night Football. Do all those things that are enjoyable. Just be aware of it. You cut a slice here, you cut a slice there. Now you got more time to build a nest and do things that 5 years from now are going to be really productive for you as a young man and for Bodie building a career. That's what the successful people are doing. Their nests are so either really good, or when they start getting broken down, before they start looking for medication and strategies, holy mackerel, I just got to clean the nest up again. And the other stuff becomes much easier to deal with. So Sunday Lights is about the nest. But in addition to that, yeah, I will be bringing in musitation. I came up with a new word. I love coming up with words that no one uses, Bodie, right? Phonomalodritis. Someone said to me, Tony, I don't think that's a word. I said, no, it's not, but I made it up, and you can see it now in the search engine. It's in the book that I wrote about. Phonomalodritis is our ability to not put down the phone. Phono, mala in Latin means bad. Phonomalodritis is inflammation. So we're getting bad inflammation from the phone, and learning that if we just stayed off the phone another 20 or 30 minutes or the hour or so, we took that back and brought it back into the nest, and the other components of the nest got better. That's major progress that was going on. So Sunday Night Lights will be musitation, new word. You've heard of that word before, right, Coop? No, you haven't, because I just made it up again. Musitation is meditating with music. Think about how good we feel when you're putting on your favorite songs. And Matt's listening to whether it's Bocelli or Yanni or Beethoven or just any piece of beautiful music, and how we feel, how those sound frequencies affect our brainwave frequencies. So we're going to teach guys like yourself how to meditate with music with your eyes open. Because to me, meditation is great, but since we live and play and train in the visual world, let's learn how to meditate with our eyes open. And we're going to breath play. We're not going to breath work. right? We're going to teach you about the symphony that you can create with your breath, with the in, with the hold, and with the exhale. That's what Sunday Lights are all about. And then there's going to be inflection time. Who'd like to talk about the 10 minutes of meditation that I'm going to walk you through? What do you feel like? How do you feel like it? We're going to do open focus. I'm going to ask you to just simply sit comfortably in a room, preferably with a window or a picture in it. And I'm going to bring you back and forth into narrow objective focus and just simply letting go and realizing when I look at nothing, I see everything. And we're going to teach you how to do that on Sunday. And eventually it becomes part of your daily routine. Sunday Lights starts with a N.E.S.T.